Hello everyone, welcome to today's lecture and this session of the VCC batch. What we will be doing this time is a bit change that I will be explaining in the end of this particular lecture. But now as we go for each and every topic, for this topic also we will start peer review. So what I'll be doing along in this topic here is I'll be explaining the topic, I'll be taking up the questions, okay, and at the same time I will be asking, the questions from you guys also. So I want maximum participations. Okay. Remember one thing, the more you will answer, the more you will learn. That is the base thing over here. Okay. Also, after every lecture, and even let's say, for example, for the upcoming lectures, I'll expect from you that you should go through those topics before, well in advance of that lecture, so that you can understand what we are covering in the lecture, because it may happen that I might cover in a summary form here, so that in that case it will be helpful for you also, that if you have already covered that particular topic before start of the lecture. Okay, during the lecture, if you have any doubt, please ask. You have that particular question box, you can ask over there. So as and when I'll be receiving any doubt, I'll be taking up that particular doubt and I'll be replying to you that. Okay. So let's start with today's lecture. So today I'm going to cover peer review. Now it's a one very important topic. One of the important topic reason, because there is a recent change in the peer review. There is a recent, overhaul of the process. There is a lot of emphasis on this particular process as of now, and very important from the exam point of view also. So now earlier there were peer review things and peer review guidelines available. Now there is a peer review guideline 2022, okay, which governs the peer review as of now. So peer review guidelines 22 is a base for us. That is something which is guides how to conduct the peer review, what are the things in the peer review and everything. So that's the base for the peer review. And these guidelines were brought into force on 1st October 2022. So from 1st October 2022, these guidelines are applicable. So I'll also quickly, what I'll be doing is with lecture, when I speak, I'll also write down some notes. You can simultaneously choose to write down those notes, or at the end of the lecture, I will be uploading those handwritten notes also. So both is fine, but I'll suggest you also write down and take down the notes in your own way, so that at the time of the exam, it will be very helpful for you guys to revise what you have written. Okay, the way you have written. So it becomes very easy to revise at the time of the exam if you have written in your own way. Okay. So peer review guidelines we are talking about. Peer review guidelines 2022. Those are the guidelines that we are talking about, and that will be the base for our discussion today. At any point in time, if you feel the screen is not visible or if you are not able to see, just let me know. Now, when I talk about peer review guidelines, these guidelines are brought into effect from 1st October 2022. Under these guidelines, there is a big change with respect to the peer review. Now, the peer review, the definition is same like earlier it was. There is no change with respect to the definition of the peer review. I'm not saying that, peer review earlier it was something, now it has become something. No. The way it is conducted, the procedural way has it gone a change. Okay. Now, earlier also, peer review, there are two things in this. Peer, which is, done by one of a person or colleague. Okay. So of a same level, that is the person is of same level. Okay. That is the peer. And when I talk about review is a review of details that we will see what thing is covered in that review. So when I talk about peer review, it means a person of similar standing reviewing or re-examining or retrospectively evaluating the work. Okay. I'll write re-examination of work. Now the question comes, what type of work and person of similar standing, and who can be that person, the peer, who can be the peer. Okay. So when I talk about who can be the peer, that is, we will be talking about who can be the peer reviewer. Now, when I talk about re-examination of the work, okay, work means which type of work here. There are two things we need to understand. Okay. One is a type of assignment that can be there in the peer review that can be selected. Number two, in each assignment, what can be reviewed, what is required to be reviewed. Okay. So when I talk about re-examination of work, I talk about specifically assurance service. So I'm talking about assurance service. Now, in that assurance service, what is the thing that I am required to, the peer review, as a peer review, I am required to review is technical, professional, and ethical standards. And if it is applicable, audit quality maturity model. Okay. So I'll be looking two things. Technical, professional, and ethical standards. Okay. The second thing I will be looking is audit quality maturity model. Okay. Now, this audit quality maturity model is not applicable to all. It is applicable to on certain basis. I will be discussing that also in a while. But as of now, we can say AQMM, okay, where it is applicable, and technical, professional, ethical standards, TPE standards, I call it. So in peer review, we review about technical, professional, ethical standards and audit quality maturity model. Now, this is somewhere is defined under this definition of peer review. Okay, it's defined under the guidelines. So guideline says that peer review means examination and review of systems and procedures to determine whether they have been put in place. So I will be looking on the TP standards, AQQM, but I also be looking around, okay, the systems and procedures to determine, okay, whether the same they are put into the place to ensure the quality of the assurance service. So I need to ensure whether the quality is there of assurance service. So I'll be checking quality, and how I will be checking quality? By verifying the system and procedure. So to check the quality, I need to check the system and procedure which are there around the assurance service so that the quality can be delivered. Okay. Along with that, along with the TPE standards, audit quality maturity model, there might be, other regulatory requirements which might be prescribed by council or any committee. Okay. Like which we are required to review. So that is also something we need to look into this particular peer review. So other regulatory requirements. Say plus other regulatory requirements. Okay. So that is the peer review. Peer review, examination and review of the system procedure to determine whether the same have been put in place by the practice unit for ensuring the quality of service as envisaged by the TPE standards, audit quality maturity model, and or any other regulatory requirements as may be prescribed by the council or committee, and whether the same were consistently applied during the period under review. Okay. So I am required to re-examination of the work, okay, to ensure the quality. Now, from where the quality comes, technical, professional, and ethical standards define the quality. Audit quality maturity model defines the quality, and other regulatory requirements define the quality. Okay. Any doubt till now? Okay. Now the doubt will be, what is assurance service? I'll be coming that in a while. What are the assurance service? I'll be coming in a while. But till now, this is clear. Okay. So this is clause 2, subclause 14 of the guidelines, you can say. That is peer review. Peer review definition. Now, there is a whole definition given for the technical, professional, and ethical standards. Now, what can be part of technical, professional, and ethical standard? Okay. So that is prescribed under clause 23, 223 of, again, the guidelines. Now, what these says that, like, what are the technical, professional, and ethical standard is the accounting standards issued by ICAI and that are applicable for entities other than companies. Accounting standards prescribed under section 133. Indian accounting standards prescribed under section 133. Okay. Standard issued by ICAI, including engagement quality control statement, guidance note, standards on internal auditing, guidelines, notification, directions, then framework for preparation and presentation of financial statement, provisions of relevant statutes, rules, regulations, okay, any other technical and professional standard which governs the profession of chartered accountancy. So all these are, technical, professional, and ethical standards. I'll quickly summarize here. AS for non-corporate entity, AS under section 133 of Companies Act, Ind AS under section 133 of Companies Act, okay. Then my standards issued by ICAI, and I can, I'll write in summary that SA, which is engagement and quality control standards, okay, statements, then guidance note, your standards on internal audit, SIA, other guidelines, notification directions and everything. Okay. Then framework for the preparation and presentation of financial statement. Framework for the preparation and presentation of financial statement. Preface to standards on quality control, auditing, reviewing, other assurance, related services. So that is a preface that is given. That is also important, okay, and applicable. Then provision of relevant statutes. Then any other technical, professional, or ethical standard that might have been applicable. So any other technical, professional, and ethical standard. Okay. So that is the scope of technical, professional, and ethical standard given under clause 223 of guidelines. Any doubt? Okay. Is it making difficult for visibility or increase the size? No issues. Okay. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Okay. So now that was my technical, professional, ethical standard defined under my peer review guidelines. Okay. There are other things also under the peer review guidelines defined, like peer review period, what is a peer, who is a peer, who can be a peer reviewer. But before that, I want to discuss about the assurance engagement. What is assurance engagement? Okay. I'll increase the size. Like think there is some people are not able to see. So let's talk about assurance engagement. Okay. Now, what is assurance engagement and where it is defined? There are two places are there where the assurance engagement is defined. Now, the first place, like even I'll not say two places, but yeah, a reference is given. So if you look into the guidelines, clause 2, subclause 2, at that particular place, the assurance engagement is defined. Of the guidelines, clause 2, subclause 2 of the guidelines, assurance engagement is defined. Now, what that says, what is an assurance engagement? So the guideline defines that the assurance engagement, okay, an engagement in which a practitioner express a conclusion designed to enhance the degree of confidence of the intended user. Okay. So engagement in which a practitioner, okay, express a conclusion designed to enhance the degree of confidence of intended user. Okay. Other than the responsible party about the, and the confidence about about the outcome of evaluation or measurement of subject matter. See, in audit, what you do, you express a conclusion whether the financial statement are true and fair. Okay, so that the people can have a degree of confidence. Like my intended user of a financial statement can have a confidence in the financial statement. Okay, they can have an enhanced confidence in the financial statement when I say it's a true and fair. And about the outcome of evaluation. Okay, when I do the evaluation of the financial statement, let's say audit, in the audit, when I check the financial statement, I provide an opinion. I express an opinion. Okay, that okay, this is true and fair. So I express in conclusion about the outcome of the evaluation that I haven't identified any observation, or it is as per me it is true and fair. It is as per the required things. Okay, which enhance the degree of confidence of the intended user. So that is something where I talk about assurance engagement. Now, this is defined under the framework for assurance engagement issued by ICL. So whatever I have written it here, engagement, which is in which a practitioner expresses a conclusion, it is from framework of assurance engagement. This whole is from framework of assurance engagement, and that is the definition has been taken from there. Okay. So this definition has been taken from their framework of assurance engagement. Okay. Now, there are certain things which are not part of assurance engagement, and those are, I'll write exception over here. And those are one, management consultancy engagements or management consultancy services, which we call representation before authorities. Then engagement to prepare tax returns. Then compilation of financial statements. So that is also not part of your assurance engagement. Okay. I'll continue on the next page. Then compiling or collating other information for client other than financial statement. Then testifying as an expert witness. providing expert opinion, you can say engagement of due diligence, then any other service where it is not forming part of the framework. So other service not part of, okay, framework, or not part of, or you can say, it has been not prescribed by the council. Under the assurance engagement. So these are the exceptions to the assurance engagement. And this is the assurance engagement definition under the guidelines. Now, there could be one question. The question could be, what is the difference between my assurance engagement, audit engagement? Okay. Then what could be the difference between attestation functions and assurance services? So there are various terms: assurance service, audit engagement, okay, then audit services, attestation functions. So what is the difference between them? There is no difference. All the things are same. So these are different phrases which we will be using, or they are used interchangeably. Okay, assurance service, audit function, audit services, attestation functions. Okay, so these all are same. There is no difference in that. And you might see somewhere that, okay, we are using another word like attestation function, but it's the same thing. Okay, so don't get confused in that. It's the same. So now that this was the base of the peer review, now we need to build the peer review around that only. Okay. As I said, the main objective of the peer review is to ensure that in carrying out the assurance engagement, okay, the member of the institute, in carrying out the assurance engagement, the member of the institute has complied with the technical, professional, ethical standards, and they have in place proper system, including documentation, to demonstrate the quality of assurance services. So now we will come to the systems and procedures, technical, professional standard. What is the objective? That is the objective of peer review. So the objective of peer review is to ensure that the practice unit, okay, the practice unit in carrying out the assurance service engagement, and I will be using PU instead of practice unit. Remember one thing, while you are writing in the exam, please do not use these abbreviations or short forms or any other shortened way of writing. That is not appropriate in exam. Write fully. If you want to write practice unit, you write practice unit. Do not use PU or such. This is for the purpose of notes. I'm just writing in the short way so that I can save time, and I can it's easy to understand, and I can summarize and fit everything in the notes. But do not use this way of writing in exam. Yeah. To ensure that, the objective of peer review is to ensure that the practice unit, while carrying out assurance service engagement, I'll write assurance engagement, AE, okay, has complied with technical professional standards, okay, as applicable, plus other regulatory requirements, okay, plus audit quality maturity model to demonstrate the quality. To demonstrate the quality, they should comply with this. And second is proper systems and procedures, including documentation. So they should have plus proper system and procedures, including documentation, okay, to demonstrate the quality of assurance service. Now these both to demonstrate the quality of assurance engagement or assurance service. That is the objective of peer review, basically. Okay. Now, once the peer review is done, based on this, based on this objective, accordingly, the whole report and everything is prepared. Now, before we move forward, let me take up one question so that you guys till now what we have covered, you guys can understand the things we have discussed. Okay. Fine. I hope it is visible. If you are not able to see, let me know. Okay, I'll increase the font size. So, Mr. Raj, a chartered accountant in practice, okay, explained the objective of peer review to his colleague and member in practice that the primary objective of peer review is to redefine the scope and authority of technical, professional, ethical standards specified by the council. He also added that the peer review must focus on isolated cases of engagement failure. Mr. Ajay, another chartered accountant in practice, disagreed with Mr. Raj. As per Mr. Ajay, the key objective of peer review is not to identify isolated cases of engagement failure, but to identify weaknesses that are pervasive and chronic in nature. Based on the above discussion, kindly explain to Mr. Raj and Ajay the correct objective of peer review. So whatever we have discussed, based on that, what do you think can be the correct objective of the peer review? Who is correct, Mr. Raj or Mr. Ajay? Come on, guys. What do you think? Who is correct, Mr. Raj or Mr. Ajay? So, peer reviewer may note that the primary objective of peer review is to improve the quality of service rendered by members of the profession. Peer review does not seek to redefine the scope of technical, professional, and ethical standards. Very important. Peer review does not seek to redefine the scope of TPE standards. Okay, but seeks to reinforce them with the parameters prescribed. Peer review is directed towards maintenance as well as enhancement of quality of assurance service and to provide guidance to members to improve their performance and adherence to various statutory and other regulatory requirements. So my base purpose and objective of peer review is to enhance the quality of assurance service by providing guidance to the member that how you can adhere to the various statutory and regulatory requirements. Okay. Accordingly, where a practice unit is not following the prescribed standard, the reviewers are expected to recommend measures to improve the procedures followed by the practice unit. Very big thing. We are not only required to highlight the issue, okay, you do not follow this, but in a constructive way, we need to provide the solution also. Okay, you are not able to comply with this, you can do this to comply. Or okay, if you are not able to comply with this because of XYZ reason, do this to comply, or you can use this technique, or you can use this way to comply the standard. So we can recommend a measure to improve the procedures followed. Therefore, objective is to maintain and enhance the quality of assurance service by providing appropriate guidance rather than simply pointing out the deficiencies of the practicing unit. Clear? Any doubt? Okay. So, to elaborate further, the key objective of peer review is not to identify isolated cases of engagement failure, but to identify weaknesses that are pervasive and chronic in nature. Okay, because isolated cases are one or two isolated, they are not linked with the whole procedure and system, and there is no, point in identifying those cases because they do not represent issue in the systems or procedure. Your job as a peer reviewer is to identify weaknesses that are pervasive in the nature, that are, present in the systems and procedure, and they are chronic. For example, absence of formal planning of an audit represents a serious deficiency that needs to be remediated by practice unit. Second, an instance of the auditor not carrying out physical verification of furniture and fixture. Now, there are certain items, which can be carried out through, which are best if they are, for which the physical verification carried out. Let's say, for example, fixture set or inventory. You can perform, some procedures instead of, physical verification, but that will not give you that much comfort or audit evidence that is required for that particular area. Hence, it is always advisable for certain items, physical verification is necessary. So if a physical verification is not done, then there is a problem. So peer reviewers should seek to identify and address the patterns of non-compliance with the quality control standards. Any doubts? Okay. So there is one doubt in this. There is one question. What is meant by subject matter? I think we were talking about the definition of assurance engagement. Okay. So you want to understand what we mean by the subject matter? When I say subject matter, the subject matter is basically, let's say, for example, if you are doing the audit of financial statement, the financial statement is the subject matter. So if you are doing the audit, then audit of what? That what is the subject matter for? Another question is, can you please give an example of engagement of due diligence? So there are various due diligence engagement that can be there. Financial due diligence, tax due diligence for the mergers. There can be various. So you can say engagement of due diligence or due diligence assignment, that is the same. Any doubts? Any doubts till now? Okay. Now that was objective of peer review. Now I'll come to next point is practicing unit. Okay. So there is particular definition of a practice unit. Over and above that, there is a new term, that is new practice unit. So let me explain both of them. Okay. Now, when I talk about practice unit, it's defined under your clause 217 of the guidelines, okay, which says that practice unit means a firm of chartered accountant, okay, or a member in practice, or okay, it can be whether it can be whether practicing in individual name or in a trade name or any entity recognized by the ICI from time to time. All these will fall under the definition of practice unit. So a firm of chartered accountant, member in practice, whether practicing in individual name or in trade name. This will include branch also. Okay, so that is my practice unit. So based on this, there is a now there is a new term, that is new unit. Defined under the guidelines. Okay. New unit is defined under clause 212, okay, which says that means a firm whose date of establishment is less than 12 months immediately preceding the date of application of peer review. So establishment less than 12 months immediately date of preceding of receiving receipt of application of peer review, which may or may not have rendered any assurance service during that period. Okay, so let's say may or may not have rendered any service, and establishment less than 12 months, or a practice unit in existence. So establishment more than 12 months. So it is in existence for period exceeding 12 months, but has not rendered any assurance service, but has not provided or rendered any assurance service. If that is the case, if any of the case is there, either less than 12 months, less or greater than 12 months, but has not provided any assurance service, in that case, that will be counted as a new practice unit or new unit. Now, why we are differentiating? we are differentiating reason because for the new units or new practice units, there is a different procedure for the you can say my peer review, and for the existing practice unit, there's a different procedure. We will be covering that in a while, but as of now, just to highlight, there is a different procedure. Any doubts? Okay, so there is one question. Whether tax audit is covered under assurance engagement, tax audit, GST audit, internal audit, then you can name any other audit, social audit. So there are various kind of audit. Okay, now whether these are covered under your peer review, so that for now I'll give you some time you guys to think about, because when I will be discussing the sample selection for the peer review, there are certain guidelines at that particular point in time. Okay, like for GST audit, tax audit, concurrent audit, internal statutory audit, all these audits, there are certain guidelines. Now, at that particular point in time, I'll cover this in detail, whether these are part or not. But as of now, based on the definition of my, assurance engagement, this thing can, keep in mind that, try to think whether it is, covered or not. So another question is 12 months from which date? As I said, 12 months from the date of receipt of application for peer review. So we need to count date of application of peer review. So if today I am applying for peer review, then 12 months from this particular date. Peer review application. Clear? Okay. Now, as I said, there are some areas that a peer reviewer can cover, and it is other than the technical and professional standards, there are some areas that the peer reviewer needs to cover, that we saw above, that systems and procedures. So when I talk about systems and procedure, what are those systems and procedures here? Like which systems and procedures are there? So I'll add it here. Sorry. So that you guys can just see. Just give me a minute. Or checking some just give me a minute. Okay. So areas that are required to be covered by the peer reviewer. Now we saw the technical professional standards. Other than that, there are certain systems and procedures or things he needs to cover. Okay. I'll write it here. So peer reviewer needs to cover compliance with technical, professional, and ethical standards. He needs to look into quality of reporting, done by the practice unit. Okay. He needs to look for the systems and procedures for carrying out assurance services. Self-evaluation. Okay. Under audit quality maturity model. Then he needs to cover training program for staff. Whether there is an appropriate training program for the staff concerned with assurance function. So whatever we are discussing, it's concerned with the assurance function. Remember, very important. Okay. Then compliance with the directions. And guidelines. Okay. Which is issued by council. From time to time, including fees to be charged, number of audits undertaken. So in professional ethics, you will see a lot of council general guidelines or some other guidelines with respect to some areas. So those are also there. It can be compliance with the directions or guidelines issued by council in relation to article assistant, audit assistants, including attendance register, work diaries, stipend payments, and so. Can you please give example of technical standard? Rather than the standard, rather than the example, there is a whole definition of technical professional standard that I discussed over here. Like AS for non-corporate entities, AS under section 133, Ind AS under section 133, standard issued by say like essays, statement, guidance note, standards on internal auditing, guidelines, framework for preparation and presentation of financial statement. So all these are covered under the technical professional and ethical standard definition. So there is a definition clause 223 of under guidelines. You can refer to that. I hope it is clear. Any doubt? Okay. Now, very important. These were all the basic terms that I was explaining about the peer review. Now comes who are required. So we know the practice unit is required to have peer reviewed. They need to apply for the peer review. So now the second part is which practice unit is required to apply for the peer review. So the criteria, or you can say the mandate for the peer review. Okay. There are 5 criteria, okay, for the peer review. There are 5 criteria for the peer review, or you can say 5 situations where a firm is required to apply for the peer review. Is required to apply for the peer review. Those are one, mandatory as per mandate. Mandatory, which is as per mandate. Now, what is mandate? I'll come. That's why I did a star mark, because I'll be covering in a while. Or you can say just remove the star mark, but I will be covering in a while. Refer peer review mandate, and I will be explaining what is peer review mandate. Second, voluntarily. So if a firm voluntarily, choose to apply for peer review. Third, special case review. Now, what are the special case review? Where board initiates peer review because of some disciplinary proceedings, or suggested by secretary of or ICI, or any other board from time to time. So in that case, a special case review is conducted. So this is based on information or request received. That is a special case review. Fourth, new practice unit. We saw that definition. Fifth, as board prescribe other criteria. Okay, so one is so basically the fourth and fifth are the separate one, and fifth is in the future, if any other criteria comes for the selection of practice units, that is the case. Voluntarily, the practice unit itself want to apply for the peer review. Suo moto, practice unit applies suo moto. Okay, so these are the 5 criteria for peer review. Now, under these 5 criteria, as I said, the first one, as per the mandate, is very important. So we need to understand what is mandate. What is mandate? Okay. So let me share the mandate here. Okay, now this is the peer review mandate. So with effect from 1st April 2022, there were peer review mandate was issued, wherein a detailed step by step, stage by stage application of peer review was done. So it was from 1st April 2022. Okay, very important. And that is into the 4 stages basically. Now, what are these 4 stages? So now these are the category of firms covered under for mandatory peer review. So this is for the mandatory peer review. Remember, this is mandate and it is for the mandatory peer review. Date. And now what is the scenario is over here, that under this category, if a practice unit, let's say, falls under phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4, they are required to apply for the peer review, and that's a prerequisite for taking up that assignment. Okay, so a firm is required to apply for the peer review, so it's mandatory for them. Otherwise, they are not allowed to take up the assignment under the phase which is there. Okay. So the phase 1 talks about practice unit which proposes to undertake statutory audit of enterprise whose equity or debt securities are listed. Whose equity and debt securities are listed. Okay. So for a list in India or abroad, both are there. Okay. For them, there is a prerequisite of having peer review certificate. If you want to take or undertake any statutory audit of an enterprise whose equity or debt is listed after 1st April 2022, you should have a peer review certificate. Your firm should be peer review. So peer review is mandatory for you. Okay. So that is the 1st April 2022, the date for that. Phase 2. Practice unit proposed to undertake statutory audit of unlisted public companies having paid up capital not less than 500 crores, turnover not less than 1000 crores, or aggregate outstanding loans 500 crores. So paid up capital, I'll write it here, greater than 500 crores, turnover greater than 1000 crores, and loans outstanding loan greater than rupees 500 crore as on 31st March of immediately preceding financial year. Okay, for them, the peer review certificate is mandate. There is a prerequisite to have a peer review certificate. Or if a practice unit is rendering attestation service and having 5 or more partners, for them also prerequisite of having peer review certificate is there before accepting any statutory audit. Either I have a unlisted public company audit with these criteria, or I have a 5 or more partners in my attestation service. I'm rendering attestation service and I have a 5 or more partners. Again, attestation service, assurance function, audit function, same. So if these are the criteria from 1st April 2023, peer review certificate is mandatory for me. 1st April 2023. That is the last month, the date when. Okay. For example, as on the date, let's say for example, on the date, practice unit from 1st April 2023, okay, there is a prerequisite for them to have a peer review certificate to undertake the statutory audit of unlisted public company. Now, if there is any of the criteria which is not meeting, let's say there's an unlisted public company is there, but paid up capital is less than 500 crore, or turnover is less than my 1000 crore, aggregate loans have been less than 500 crores as on 31st March of immediately preceding previous year, then it will not fall under the 1st April, then it may fall into some other category. So I need to see in that way. Now on the date when the peer review becomes mandatory for a practice unit, okay, they are required to possess a peer review certificate. Now, for example, let's say you already have a peer review certificate, which was, let's say, issued in 22, valid in 23. You are not required to take another certificate till the conclusion or expiry of the first certificate. If on 1st April 23 you already hold a certificate which is still valid, fine, that is perfectly fine. Means you are eligible. You can take up the assignment. So till a certificate is there which is valid, that is fine. But if you do not have a certificate as on date of becoming mandatory for you, you need to first apply for the certificate, get your form, get the peer review done, get the peer review certificate, and then accept the audit. Phase 3, units which are proposing to undertake statutory audit of entities which have raised funds from public or bank or financial institutions over 50 crores rupees during the period under a review, or any body corporate, including trust, which are covered under public interest entities. Okay, so either 50 crore or more, they have raised the funds, public or bank or financial institution, or any body corporate, including trust, if they are covered under the definition of, or requirement of public interest entities, they are for them it is from 1st April 2024. Another area is that if they are rendering association service or having 4 or more partners, again for them 1st April 2024. Then practice entity which propose to undertake audit of branch of public sector banks, for them it's 1st April 2025, or association service and having 3 or more partners, for them 1st April 2025. Okay, so these are the 4 stages of peer review, 4 phases of peer review mandate, and based on that the firm is required to have peer review certificate based on the type of engagement you are undertaking or the partners you have. Any doubt with respect to the mandate? Any doubt with respect to the mandate? Okay. Okay. If no doubt, then let me ask one question then. With respect to the peer review mandate itself. Okay. With respect to the peer review mandate, let me ask one question. ABC and company wants to undertake statutory audit of let's say XYZ branch of DEF bank. So that's a branch audit. Okay, wants to undertake the statutory audit of XYZ branch of DEF bank. Currently, ABC and company have the following partners. Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, and let's say Mr. D. 4 partners. Okay. As on 1/4/2023, ABC and company does not have a valid peer review certificate. To keep it simple, as on 1st April 2023, ABC and company does not have a valid peer review certificate. Okay. Now, based on this, or let's say I'll change a bit over here. Mr. C, Mr. D, Mr. E, because for bank audit there is a criteria that number of partners, and Mr. F. So they have 6 partners. So as on 1st April 2023, ABC and company does not have a valid peer review certificate. You need to guide, you need to tell whether ABC and company can accept statutory audit of which bank it was? DEF bank. XYZ branch. So you need to tell whether ABC and company can accept statutory audit of DEF bank as on 01/04/2023. Simple. These are the 6 partners I'm highlighting over here. Okay. Then they want to do the audit of XYZ branch. Of DEF bank. They don't have does not have a valid peer review certificate. You need to tell as on 1st of April 2023 whether they can undertake the peer review or not. So you tell me whether as on 1st April 2023, ABC and company can accept the statutory audit of DEF bank XYZ branch. Come on, guys. Pretty easy. Come on. We just now discussed this one. Okay. Correct, Namrata. Correct, Janvi. So for the mandate, first you need to understand under which phase it is falling, and then you need to decide the date. Come on, guys. You need to consider which phase this ABC and company will fall into, and accordingly you need to decide the mandate or the date of you can say peer review. Let's go to the mandate then. Under the mandate, if you see, when I talk about statutory audit or audits of branches of public sector bank, let's say DEF Bank, if I want to take a branch audit of public sector bank, it is 1st April 2025. However, there is another criteria for the partners. If a practice unit rendering attestation service and having 5 or more partners, for them, it is 1st April 2023. If I have a 5 or more partners, I need to go for 1st April 2023. Okay. And in that case, my mandate will be, or I will fall under phase 2, and accordingly I cannot accept until I have valid peer review certificate. Clear? Okay. So that is the mandate that I was discussing about. Now there is one important question. Okay. That is very very important. What if your peer review certificate, let's say in this case only, I'll take this example. Another variation. What if peer review certificate was expiring on, let's say, 30th/4/2023. I have a valid peer review certificate on the date of acceptance of the, let's say, statutory audit, but it is expiring in a month. It is expiring in a month. Okay. What will I do then in that case? Can I accept? Can I accept if it is expiring within a month or 2 months, let's say? Can I accept the assignment or statutory audit? Very important. Come on, guys. Okay. Kaushiki. Okay, Namrata. Good. Okay. See, with respect to the peer review, there is one thing you need to understand, that a firm is required to have peer review certificate, okay, at all times. It's not like that, I had a peer review certificate now and it is getting expired. I'll take one after another year. It's not the case. If it is mandatory for you, you should have peer review certificate. Okay, at the time when it is expiring. So that's why it's advisable, or it's required by the firm, that the firm should get a peer review certificate. Okay, once before the previous certificate expires. It's not like that I can have a gap in peer review certificate. Like today I have one peer review certificate, I'll now decide, okay, I'll take another peer review certificate after 1 year. So there is a gap of 1 year under which I don't have any certificate. It should not be the case. So it is a responsibility of practicing unit to apply for the peer review in such a way that they should have another valid peer review certificate before their previous certificate is expiring. Okay, so they should apply in the form 1 in such a way that they should have a peer review certificate before their earlier peer review certificate is getting expired. So they can accept, yes, but they need to make sure that. Clear? Any doubt? Okay, so there is a question, what is attestation function? Same as an assurance engagement. As I said, assurance engagement, attestation function, all are same. I'll be sharing the notes, yes, definitely. This handwritten notes plus the peer review mandate and whatever I'm showing to you, I'll be sharing that. Correct, Sriram, your answer was correct. Okay. So yes, guys, your answer was correct. They can accept, but they need to make sure that they have the certificate before it is expired. Okay. If no further questions, what I suggest is let's take a 10-minute break here and we can gather back after the break and then continue the peer review. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. Hello everyone, welcome back. Okay, so till now we have discussed on the peer review, okay, and peer review mandate. So what is the peer review certificate requirement before accepting an assignment based on the mandate? So we had that detail. Okay, now that was a mandatory one. Based on the mandate, voluntary we saw special case. Special cases, as I said, where, like, it has been recommended by board, it has been, by disciplinary directorate, or it has been recommended by any other authority to conduct a peer review for that particular special case. New practice unit, it's there, and I'll be covering a whole section on the new practice units together and any other requirement which is there. Okay. Now, the next part I want to cover is the peer review procedure. Like, we saw the mandate is there, we saw the criteria is there. Now I want to cover the peer review procedure. What is the procedure for the peer review? Like, let's say, for example, today I want to have a peer review certificate. I want my firm that it should be peer review. What is the procedure for the peer review? That I will be covering now. And that is for the practice unit, not the new unit. So, peer review procedure, or you can say for appointment. Now, as per the, like, if I talk about the base, that what is the base for my peer review procedure, where it is coming from? It is coming from my guidelines. So guidelines defines how the peer review is required to be conducted, or what is the procedure for initiating a peer review. Okay. So there's a clause 6 of the guidelines which talks in detail about the peer review procedure. Now, what it says that practice unit which desires to get their firm or their practice peer review, they are required to make an application. They are required to make an application and fill a questionnaire. Application cum questionnaire. There is a combined application cum questionnaire in Form 1. So, firms, or I'll use the word practice unit. Okay. Practice unit desire to get peer reviewed shall make an application in Form 1, which is application cum questionnaire. Okay. Now, once this is applied or an application is made in Form 1, okay, peer review is initiated by the board. Now, what board does is, board sends a panel of 3 peer reviewers. Okay. So, board sends a panel of 3 peer reviewers to the peer review practicing unit. Panel of 3 reviewers is shared with the practicing unit. Okay. Within 3 working days. Now, these dates are also important. So, I'll be highlighting in red within 3 working days. Okay. Now, panel of 3 reviewers is shared with the practicing unit. One more thing I want to highlight over here is, in case of, in case where the board is initiating peer review, special case review. In that case, application cum questionnaire in form 1 uh, is submitted by form on request of peer review board secretary. So board will request you to submit the form 1 when it is initiated by board. The peer review is initiated by board. So otherwise, in other cases, the practicing unit itself will submit, and in case of board initiated, a board will request you to submit the form 1. Okay. Now, once the practicing unit receives the name of 3 reviewers, they are required to select one. They are required to select one. Okay. And within 1 working day of receipt of names. So practice unit shall select 1 out of 3. Okay. And intimate the board within 1 working day. From receipt of names. Once the names are received, within 1 working day, select 1 out of 3, share it with the board. Now, once that is done, board will intimate to the reviewer that your name has been selected. Now, you need to submit form 2. So, board will intimate the reviewer that your name has been selected, okay, that you are selected, and reviewer is required to submit a declaration of confidentiality in form 2. So reviewer is required to submit form 2, that is declaration of confidentiality. Okay. Now, along with these, I'm talking about form 1, form 2. What I'll do is I'll also show you these forms simultaneously so that you guys can have a good understanding of the forms. Okay. Let me show you the forms also so that it will be easy for you to understand. See, this is form 1, application cum questionnaire, which is submitted by the practice unit. Okay. Now, if you see, what it contains is name of the firm, then the firm is applying for the peer review, whether it is mandatory, voluntary, special case, new, as per the decision by board. 5 out of the 5 criteria. Okay. Then they will provide if they are doing any, out of these any services. So what is their major type of clients? So need to provide the details over here. They need to provide whether they are conducted statutory audit of enterprise listed in India, just to understand whether which phase of peer review is applicable, under which mandate they are falling. Option for appointment of a reviewer, same city, from outside city, either option preferred, any option is given. Mail ID for the communication, address, and this is a new submitted by new unit. Information to be submitted by the new unit. I'll be covering that in a while. And here is an annexure, questionnaire, application come questionnaire. So second part is a questionnaire. So there are 4 questions under which they need to reply. Within 7 working days, they need to pay the fees. Okay. Immunity from disciplinary or legal proceedings or something like that. So these are the 4 questions that are there. Okay. So that is the form 1. Now comes to the detailed questionnaire which is there in annexure. Okay. Like what is your peer review number, address, email, firm registration number, contact person for the peer review, particulars of the constitution of practicing unit. Okay. Then details of chartered accountant, employee, paid assistant, details of other employees, branch offices, gross receipts of the practice unit, okay, or branch, total gross receipt of practice unit or branch, if there is centralized billing and any other details. This is important. Details where the professional fees from any client exceed 50% of the PU's total gross receipt. So if any of the client where the receipt of the client is exceeding 15% of the gross receipt, you need to provide the details separately. Okay. Then digital competency maturity model, whether you have taken a self-evaluation or not. Okay. Whether was the firm subject to peer review in the past, disciplinary proceedings against partner employee, client obtained through process of tendering. Again, there is an annexure A to the questionnaire. Okay. Details. There are multiple details which are required to be filled. Okay. Then there is a part B. Okay. This is not applicable to the new units, but applicable to the practicing units or old practicing units. Okay. So, like these are the details that they are required to fill with respect to the general controls. Remember systems and procedures and controls. So that is the general controls based on SQC1. Very important. So the firm is required to provide the details on this part, like based on SQC1, whether they have the quality control manual, whether they have a firm entrusted with the responsibility of developing, implementing, and operating firm's quality control system, ultimate responsibility of quality control, refresher sessions, and a lot of things are there in this form. Ethical requirement. Okay. So it talks about, policies and procedures, whether the firm has these policies and procedures or not. Then acceptance, continuance. These are the part of SQC1. So based on the SQC1, a detail, a firm is required to provide a detailed information whether they have implemented thoroughly SQC1 or not. Which is the part 4, human resource, engagement performance. See here, this is, you need to provide answer yes, no, or not applicable. Okay. So a lot of detail, monitoring, a lot of details are there in this. Part C is AQM, audit quality maturity model. This is applicable from 1st April 2023 for practicing units conducting statutory audit of listed entities other than branches of banks and insurance companies, and recommendatory for other practice units. So if you are conducting statutory audit of listed entities, it is mandatory from 1st April 2023 for you. You need to score, and on the basis of this scoring method, you need to perform this audit quality maturity assessment, and at the end you need to understand what is your total score, and based on that you need to give a classification based on the scoring. Okay, so you need to see what is your score out of 600 based on each of the point, and based on this score a classification is decided. Okay. So there is a guidance also given for the filing of form 1. So this was form 1 basically that is required to be submitted. I'll show you the form 2 declaration 1. So form 2 is acceptance from declaration of confidentiality, which is required to be submitted by the practicing unit or by the peer review. Okay. So here peer reviewer submits this form 2, wherein he accepts to the confidentiality things. There are he confirms there is no disciplinary proceedings are pending against them. He has not any conflict of interest. He has not accepted any professional assignment from practice unit in last 2 years, and he will not accept any professional engagement from practice unit in next 2 years. He is not found guilty of professional misconduct. He is not being convicted by court. He has not undergone any training or articleship at the practicing unit. He was not partner of practicing unit. Okay, so he confirms his eligibility with respect to practicing unit and with respect to being a peer reviewer. Okay, and he provides this form to the board. Digital competency maturity model, I'll be coming that there is a separate model for that. I'll coming in on that also in a while. So that was the form 2. Okay. Now, once the form 2 is submitted, the practicing unit means the reviewer has accepted that he will be doing the peer review. Then practice unit is also required to provide a copy of form 1, which is submitted to the board to the reviewer within 2 working days of appointment of the reviewer. So now once the form 2 is submitted, means the reviewer is finalized, and that is required to be done within 2 working days. So I'll add the date here, days, within 2 working days from receipt of choice of name. Once this is submitted, then the practice unit is required to provide copy of form 1 that we saw earlier, okay, to the reviewer. That has been selected by the practice unit itself. Now that is required to be done within 2 working days of appointment of reviewer. Okay. Now that was the first step, initial step, you can say, for initiating peer review. So this is for initiating. Now the second step comes is peer review procedure followed by the reviewer. Once the reviewer is selected, once everything is finalized, reviewer gets detailed, then what reviewer is required to do? That is the peer review procedure followed by reviewer. That is defined under clause 7 of guidelines. Okay. So once form 1 is submitted to the reviewer, okay, peer reviewer also submits their confidentiality declaration of confidentiality. Okay. Then peer reviewer is required, okay, to submit, or you can say to propose visit a date of visit with respect to the the practicing unit. When he will be visiting the practicing unit, he will be selecting the samples, and that samples are intimated to the board and to the practicing unit in form 5. So peer reviewer is required to select samples now based on sample selection guidelines. That is very important. Sample selection guidelines, important point. Okay, because based on that he needs to select samples, and that has been issued by the peer review board. We'll be seeing in a while, and that is to be submitted in form 5. Okay, then he also is required, peer review is also required to propose the date of visit. So he will intimate the practice unit of proposed visit, that when he will be visiting the practicing unit, plus proposed date of visit is required to be submitted to the practicing unit. Okay, so that they can keep everything ready, and they can keep everything work papers ready so that the reviewer can review. Now this selection and this everything is required to be done within 2 working days of receiving the information from practicing unit. Okay, so this is within 2 working days. Okay, so within 2 working days, he is required to select samples and required to intimate to the practice unit. Now there are various things based on which the sample selection is done. There are various things based on which the sample selection is done. The guidelines are there, but before before I discuss the guidelines, there is a minimum sample selection requirement also. There are things that you need to consider when you are selecting the samples, like which kind of audit is required to be selected, which kind of audit should not be selected, or all those things is there. So I'll be discussing in detail that guidelines. So before that, I'll show you the form 5. Yeah. Form 5, notice by peer reviewer for visiting the office of the practice unit. Okay. So here it is there that this is in regard with the peer review of the firm. Okay, this is for the period of this. This is to inform you or plan the visit on your office on this proposed date. Further, through the questionnaire submitted by you, you are requested to keep the ready files pertaining to the following clients. These are the sample details, sample engagements, and name and FY, financial year, because period under review can be of it's more than 1 year, so it can be of 3 years. So period under review, if it is of 3 years, keeping aside the new unit, if it is of 3 years, then you will be selecting from each year one sample. So you are required to mention the financial year also. Now there is a question, can we select reviewer other than which are shared the name of 3 reviewers? Answer is no. You need to select one from that. Okay. Now I'll be talking about the sample selection guidelines. So there is a sample selection guidelines which has been provided by the peer review board. Okay. So sample selection guidelines is divided in 2 categories. One for firm in existence for more than 3 financial years. For firms in existence from 1 to 3 financial years. Remember, this is minimum sample selection guidelines which is given, not the maximum. Again, this is the minimum sample size based on average annual gross receipt or revenue from assurance service. So if the average annual gross receipt or revenue from assurance service client or practicing unit for the period under review is less than 5 CR, then minimum sample size will be 10. 5 to 10, it's 15. 10 to 20 is 20. 20 to 30, 25. 30 to 50, 30. And above 50, 50 samples. Minimum sample size. And this is the number. Okay. Now, if your total population is less than the minimum, let's say I'm falling on the bucket of 5 to 10, but my population or the total assurance engagement undertaken by the firm is less than 15, let's say it's 10, then I need to select 100% of the population. So if the total if the total population is less than the minimum as prescribed, then 100% of the population is required to be submitted. Plus, in that situation, a certificate will be issued only for the validity of 18 months. Very important. Otherwise, it's of the 3 year, but the certificate here will be validity of the 3 months. 18 months, sorry, not 3 months, 18 months. Okay. This is for the firm in existence of the 3 financial years. Now, if the firm is in existence of the less than 3 financial years, like 1 to 3, because less than 1 will become new unit. Less than 1 will become new unit. I'm not talking about the new unit over here. Okay. So 1 to 3. That's why 1 to 3. Now, minimum sample size should be, if your population, if the total number of assurance clients, that the population is 5 or more, but less than 10, then 100% you need to select. If your assurance clients are more than 10, you need to select as per this table. If it is more than 10, then you need to follow this table. That is, select samples as per the above table. And in both of the cases, the peer review certificate validity will be 3 years. However, if your sample size is less than, population is less than 5, means total assurance clients are less than 5, you need to select 100%, but your validity will be 18 months of the peer review certificate. Clear? So, sample selection, I'll summarize here. Now, bifurcated under 2 categories. Firm existence greater than 3 years. Firm existence greater than 1 year, less than 3 years, because otherwise it will go to the new unit. Okay. Now, if it is firm existence greater than 3 years, based on average annual gross receipt / turnover. from the assurance engagement. If it is less than 3 years, greater than 1 year, then you need to see, again there are 3 categories based on population. Population greater than 10. If population is greater than 10 engagements, then follow this one. If population greater than 5, less than 10, population is greater than 5, means you have more than 5 engagement during the period under review, but you have less than 10. Okay. In that case, 100% selection. If population is less than 5, then also 100% selection. But the difference is, but the only difference is here that in these both cases, peer review certificate will have a validity of 3 years, and here validity 18 months. Okay. Now, in the case of firm in existence of more than 3 years, okay. Now, in this case, if population is less than the minimum, I'll write it down, refer table. If population is less than minimum, then your sample selection will go to 100% selection plus your certificate validity will be 18 months. Peer review certificate validity 18 months. Clear? Any doubt? I'll bring it here. If population is more than sample size or minimum more than minimum, then select as per table. And your peer review certificate validity 3 years. Okay. So that is for the firm in existence of greater than 3 years, firm in existence of less than 3 years, but more than 1 year. For the firm existence that is less than 1 year, it is new unit. So I'll say refer new unit. Because we are not covering that here. We will be covering when we will be discussing the new unit. Any doubt with respect to the sample selection? Again, this is minimum. This is minimum. I'll write it. Minimum sample selection. Not the maximum we are talking about. Okay. Now I'll discuss one very important area. Other than this, there are certain guidelines given for the sample selection. One, samples. These are certain guidelines for the minimum sample selection laid by the board. Okay. Some points to be noted, like sample selected should be representative of the total population of assurance service. Number one. Number two, samples chosen must include assurance engagement assignment with the highest turnover among the statutory audit population. So the engagement which has the highest turnover should be part of your population. At least 5 samples in total you are required to select. If there are less than 5, you need to select 100% of the population. Okay. Now you need to select statutory audit of the listed entities, central public sector undertakings, and central cooperative societies. At least one sample each from central statutory audit of banks and insurance company. If you do not have a central statutory audit, you can select statutory branch or audit of the public sector undertakings. Okay. So either branch audit or central statutory audit, at least one sample. Sample must include each type of assurance engagement: statutory, internal, concurrent, tax, GST, including service provided on tender basis. Means my assurance engagement includes statutory audit, internal audit, concurrent audit, tax audit, GST audit. Samples must be picked from assurance clients which contribute 15% or more to the total revenue. There is a clause 17 of part 1 of the questionnaire. Remember, we saw for the clients. That's why I highlighted that's an important part, because I need to select sample from that. Samples must be selected from each locations where PU is rendering assurance services. Okay. At least one sample from assurance service rendered by each partner. Samples must be picked from each year under review. Samples must necessarily include those clients in respect of which advisory has been issued by FRRB or any regulator. Clause 14 of part B of the questionnaire. So if any advisory has been issued by the Financial Reporting Board or FRRB or any regulator, then you need to select that sample. So these are the sample selection guidelines issued by the board for selecting the minimum samples. Clear? Any doubt? This is important. To summarize, minimum sample criteria divided in two categories: for more than 3 years term, for less than 3 years. For more than 3 years, you have a table where the minimum sample size is given. If you don't have the minimum sample size because the number of assurance engagement are less, select 100%. Your peer review certificate validity will go to 18 months. For 1 to 3 years, if your total assurance client or the population is more than 5 but less than 10, select 100% of the population. If it is more than 10, go with the table. If it is less than 5, select 100%. But for the 5 to 10 and more than 10, your certificate validity will be 3 years. If your population is less than 5, your certificate validity will be 18 months. And then these guidelines. Any doubt? Any doubt? Any doubt? Very important. Let's cover one question on this topic, very important topic. Okay. ABC and Company, a 10-year chartered accountant firm, engaged in assurance practice and applied for the peer review by making an application cum questionnaire to the board in Form 1. A panel of 3 reviewers, that is Mr. Manpreet, Rajkumar and Ajay, was sent to ABC and Company along with the notification of peer review fees. ABC and Company selected Mr. Rajkumar as a peer reviewer. As a part of peer review, on receiving the application cum questionnaire in Form 1 from ABC and Company, Mr. Rajkumar intimated ABC and Company and the board for the proposed visit and the proposed sample of the assurance services selected by him in Form 5. Below are the population details, average annual gross receipt or revenue from assurance service client of the practice unit for the period under review and sample selected. So number of assurance engagement that were undertaken by PU during the period under review, 8 engagements. Average annual gross receipts, 6.5 CR. Sample selected by peer reviewer for the review, 25%, this is 2 engagements. Okay. ABC and Company were unhappy with the sample selection as Rajkumar selected a sample with highest fees. As a result, ABC and Company approached Mr. Rajkumar to revise the sample selection. Mr. Rajkumar has reached out to you to seek your guidance on a sample selection for the peer review. Kindly guide Mr. Rajkumar with respect to the sample selection criteria for peer review. So now, based on whatever we have discussed, tell me what is the correct sample selection here. What should be the minimum size of sample? I'm talking about again minimum. So this is the detail you have over here. ABC and Company, 10-year-old chartered accountant firm engaged in assurance practice. They were given 3 reviewers, Manpreet, Rajkumar and Ajay. They selected Rajkumar. This is the details of number of assurance engagement during period under review. Annual gross receipt, sample selected. ABC were not happy because samples were selected with the highest fees. Now tell me what should be the minimum sample size here. Question number 1. Come on, guys. What should be the minimum sample size here? Correct, Kaushiki. For the second one, I think Kaushiki, I'll discuss that. Correct, Namrata. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for other answers also. Okay. Correct, Kaushiki. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for 4 more answers on this. Very important. Okay. Let me take up. Now, first of all, understand what is the average. First of all, which category this firm falls? More than 3 years, less than 3 years. So I told this is a 10-year-old chartered accountant firm. So more than 3 years, I need to refer to the table. Now, if I need to refer to the table, okay, my turnover is 6.5. 6.5 CR annually. So based on 6.5, my minimum sample size goes to 15, but I have the population of 8, which is less than the minimum. If it is less than the minimum, I need to select 100%, and my validity will go to 18 months. So minimum should be 100% in the current case because I have less than 15. This is less than 15. And 100% of the population is selected. So this 2 engagement, which is 25%, is wrong. It should be 100%. Now coming to the second questions. Mr. Rajkumar selected with the highest fees. Yes, he can select. Reason because if any client has the fees more than 15% of the total, he can select. So there is no bar on the selecting the highest fees. But there are other sample selection criteria that are required to be considered, not only the fees. Okay. So like, turnover and all those things are there. So based on that, he can select highest fees plus other also. So first of all, it should, but here, if you see, my population is less than minimum. Any which ways I need to select 100%. And if I select 100%, everything will get covered. So there is no question on selecting highest fees or any such, because I am selecting 100% by default. So whatsoever it will be there, it will be selected. Okay. So that is something on the minimum sample selection. Clear? Any doubt? Correct, Sriram. Any doubt? See, in exam, how you need to write? In exam, you need to refer to the provision first. Let's say, for example, in exam, when you are writing this thing, first you need to explain the provision from where it is coming, the guidelines of minimum sample selection. Then you need to explain the case over here. Okay, in the current case, this is the scenario, okay, which is less than 10. And then you need to give the conclusion. Okay, will be the conclusion. And accordingly, you need to give the answer in exam. So in exam, usually how the pattern goes is, first you need to provide the provision, or based on which the question is dependent. You need to provide current scenario. What is in current scenario? Okay, the population is this, turnover is this, engagement has been selected like this way. Then you need to correlate the current scenario and provision, and you need to see tell what is required to be done. So correlate, and then you need to conclude. Accordingly, the sample selection was not correct. Like this way. See, if the that's why I'm saying. So there is a question. Peer review period is 3 years. Then how the sample will be selected? So if you see the sample selection guidelines, it says that one sample from each year. So here, if I say 8 engagement for period under review, it can be 3 years. It can be, the period under review can be like based on the available period. If it is a 3 years, then I am saying 8 engagement during 3 years. But if it is less than minimum, then I need to select 100%. Minimum is not per year. It is for the period under review. So 10, 5, whatever number I showed you is for the period under review, not minimum for one each year. So don't confuse each year. Here we are talking about period under review. So total, that minimum sample in total is required to be selected. Okay. Any doubt? Okay. Now, once the sample selection is done, based on minimum sample selection guidelines, then the reviewer will move the sample selection downwards. Once the sample selection is done, okay, the reviewer is required to provide at least 2 working days to keep ready, okay, the necessary records. The on-site reviewer is required to carry the on-site review. Now, on-site review should not exceed beyond 6 working days. Should not exceed beyond 6 working days. Okay. Now, reviewer is required to review. There are 2 ways of testing it: compliance approach, substantive approach. I'll be discussing that in a while also. Okay. Reviewer is required to review whether the proper controls approach is there or not. Everything is required to be reviewed. Now that was for the peer review, for the review procedure for initiating. Then it was followed by the peer reviewer for review. Now third is reporting by peer reviewer. Okay, that is defined under clause 9 of the guidelines. So reporting by peer reviewer. Now, in case of reporting by peer reviewer, after completing the on-site review, the reviewer is required to submit peer review report to the board along with Form 9. Okay. So peer reviewer is required to submit peer review report along with Form 9 to the board. Okay. Now, once this is done, a copy of report is also required to be forwarded to the practice unit. And in case like there are deficiencies or non-compliance has been noted, in that case, the peer reviewer first is required to submit a preliminary report. Okay. So peer reviewer first should submit a preliminary report, and then he can submit, he can wait for the response of the practicing unit, and then he can submit the final report. Okay. So it depends upon whether it's a modified or unmodified opinion kind of thing. So after performing on-site review, okay, peer reviewer shall submit the report to the board, okay, in Form 9, along with Form 9. Okay. Now, so we need to understand whether there are any deficiencies reported, kind of a modified opinion, and unmodified opinion. There can be two scenarios. I have performed the review. Now I am satisfied, or either I have identified any some issues. If I have identified any issues, I need to submit first. PR shall submit his finding to practicing unit in preliminary report. Okay. So he shall submit his preliminary report to the practicing unit. Now, then practicing unit is required to submit representations and replies to PR. Now, in preliminary report, I'll highlight the issue. Okay, this is the issue. These are the deficiencies I have identified. Practicing unit shall submit their representation and replies to PR, and that is required to be done within 2 working days from receipt of finding. Within 2 working days from receipt of findings. Okay. Now there can be 2 scenarios. Once the practicing unit is submitting the representations, either the peer reviewer can be satisfied, okay, fine, earlier I identified the issue, but based on their replies and representation, now I think it's not an issue. So either I can go to the unmodified opinion, or I can still stick to the modified opinion kind of thing here. So if peer reviewer is not satisfied after this, we need to understand if peer reviewer is not satisfied, okay, then in that case there are few things I'll highlight. I'll continue on the next page. If peer reviewer is not satisfied with the response, then what will happen is he will submit his report, kind of a qualified report of qualified opinion or peer review report. He will submit the qualified peer review report in Form 9 that we discussed earlier also. Okay. Along with that, there are few things that he is required to submit with the Form 9. Okay. That is annexure to the report.
According to India Today, in Nagaland, Nationalist Democratic Party.
Okay. Then copy of Form 1. Okay. Copy of Form 1. Then list of samples selected means copy of Form 5. Preliminary report that was shared with the practice student, and replies or response received from practicing unit. All these details are required to be submitted with the Form 9. If peer reviewer is satisfied, okay, with the response, and now he wants to submit unqualified report, then he can do that. So he can submit unqualified or a clean peer review report. Okay. Again in Form 9, that will be in Form 9 only. And along with that, annexure, copy of Form 1, Form 5 will still applicable, except for preliminary, also preliminary report. Because preliminary report was sent, responses were received, but then he chose to issue an unqualified because he was satisfied with the preliminary report. So still preliminary report and responses received will be shared. Okay, so that is the procedure for report issuance. In case of unmodified opinion, directly, if he is satisfied, fine, he will issue Form 9 and along with the necessary documents which are applicable in the case, if from day one it was satisfied. So only the preliminary report and responses received will not be part of that. Okay. Quickly, I will show you Form 9 and the audit report format that is there. We will not spend much time on that. Just I'll show you quickly. This is the model final report that is submitted. Okay. There the details are there of the letter, firm, everything of the appointment. Okay. Objective is mentioned of the peer review. Limitations of the peer review are mentioned. Then the opinion is there. Okay. This is for the, clean report, not the modified one or qualified one. Then you are also required to provide ATQM as per Annexure 3, which is given below. Okay. And part B of the questionnaire of the SQC1. You need to reply on the basis of that. Now, along with this report, there is a preliminary report also, model preliminary report given for the initial findings. So if you identified any issue, this is how the preliminary report is prepared. Where basically, the findings are mentioned. Okay. Now, if it is a qualified report, like even after preliminary and responses, you still feel the report, you want to issue a qualified report, then rest is same. The change will be on the qualified opinion over here after visiting the premises. In my opinion, because of the deficiency described below, the system of quality control for the assurance service of this firm for the period under review has not been designed to carry out the professional assurance service assignment in manner that ensure compliance with the technical, professional, and ethical standard laid down by the institute. Compliance with the accounting standards, standard on quality control mentioned in by practice unit in part B of the questionnaire, and the reason for the qualified opinion you need to mention. Okay, so this is how it is there, the report, and along with the report there are annexures which you are required to attach. Annexure 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll quickly show you that annexure also. Just a minute, let me show you. So annexure contains the detail kind of, what was looked into, what are the things that have been, checked, or all those things. Yeah, annexure to the final peer review report. Like, date on which questionnaire received, total number of assurance engagement handled by PO, detail that you have taken care while, while performing the peer review, and the assessment that you have performed for the practicing unit with respect to, the requirements of TP, technical, professional, ethical standards, whether hard copies and soft copies are maintained, internal control system was carried out, or compliance to the ethical, professional, and technical, professional, ethical standards. All those details are required to be filled under annexure 1, 2, 3. Okay. Annexure 2 talks about with respect to the quality control, SQC1. Annexure 1 talks about the review that you have performed, and Annexure 3 talks about the audit quality maturity model. So all these questions, once you answer, and accordingly, these are required to be attached with the final peer review report. So in Annexure 3, you need to compare the score that is awarded by the firm in self-evaluation, score that you are giving as a peer reviewer, and any difference, then explanation for the difference. So that is with respect to the Form 9 and audit report that is there. Any doubt? So there is one good question. If the same client is continued for 3 years, then he will be counted as a one sample? No. Each assurance engagement of different financial year will be counted as a different sample. So I have provided assurance engagement service, let's say in FY 1920 for a particular client, then FY 2021, 21, 22, then all these three will be counted as separate assurance engagement. It's not a, see, my sample is assurance engagement. So in your engagement letter, do you prepare the same one engagement letter for all the 3 years, or 4 years? Answer is no. You have a separate engagement letter for each and every assurance engagement. So that is a math sample. Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubt, then this was a peer review process. Today with us, we have ma'am with us over here. Ma'am will speak about the way that we will be conducting the lectures this time. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Harshad. Thank you so much. Good morning, students. Welcome to the 6th batch on CA Final Course Paper 3 Advanced Auditing and Professional Ethics. And today your wait is over because you all were asking when we will start the batch. So this time we are coming out with the 6th batch with some modification. Slight changes are there in the pattern of the classes which we used to have in our earlier batches. In means 1 to 5 batch, we were having all the complete lectures. In this batch, we are having some little bit different pattern we will be following so that you can get more and more benefit from these classes, right? So before starting, you all must be aware that on our BOS knowledge portal, or you can go on BOS, you can download BOS mobile app, skill-wise and section-wise weightage is given there. We have total 18 chapters and engagement and quality control standards. So today we have started with section 4. The reason behind is earlier we were having peer review statement and now we are having peer review guidelines. So there are changes in the same. So we have started with amendments, right? So that's why we have started our topic peer review guidelines. It's covered in our section 4. In section 4, we have our audit of PSUs, internal audit, management and operational audit, due diligence, investigation and forensic audit, and peer review and quality review topic. So out of these 4 topics, we are having changes in peer review, right? And remaining topics are same. And weightage for these topics is 10% to 20%. So that's why we have started with peer review topic. But then after peer review and quality review, we will be switching to our engagement and quality control standard, a very, very important section, that is section 1, which alone carry weightage of 25% to 40%. It means 30 to 48 marks. 30 to 48 marks, I'm repeating. So don't look at the bulkiness of engagement and quality control standard. Please read carefully. Now I am coming to pattern of the classes. Before that, let me brief that in our section 1, we have all engagement and quality control standards, that is SQC1 and all essays till 720. SA 800 series, SAE, SRE, SRS are not applicable for November 23 examination. So we will be covering all auditing standard, and these are also in audit planning, strategy and execution chapter, then in your risk assessment and internal control part, and audit report, of course, complete SA 700 series, SA 700, 701, 705, 706, 710 and 720. All these standards are covered in our audit report chapter. So major part will be covered in the form of engagement and quality control standard. Now, what kind of change we are bringing? Earlier, we used to explain all the engagement and quality control standard in detail. And those lectures are available for you. That's why you might have gone through the schedule. In schedule, we have uploaded SA 200 series recorded lecture, then our SQC1, SA 300 series. So all those lectures are available for you. Now, what we are going to cover in our SA 200 series lecture on 10th May, that might be in your question in your brain, that what will be done in SA 200 series. So what we have planned now, we will be coming out with question bank. We will be practicing more and more questions, because after studying the engagement quality control standard, still student asks ma'am, we were not able to identify in the examination that which standard we need to cover, how to write, what part we are missing, how to present the answer. So our main focus and main thrust will be how to read the question carefully, how to understand the requirement of the question, what should be the part of the answer, how to present the answer, what key criteria should be covered in the answer, and maximum questions we will be trying to cover in the form of maybe MCQ, integrated case scenario, and descriptive question. Because in your paper, 30 marks is for MCQ and integrated case scenario. Generally, 2 integrated case scenarios are being asked, which are purely application based, and MCQs. Fine. So need to fetch more and more marks. So for that, you need to read the engagement and quality control standard at your own and go through the lecture which is uploaded in the schedule. You can see it's on 9th May. Then we have on 9th May, we have uploaded Essay 200 series recorded lecture. Then for question and answer also we have uploaded, which we have covered earlier. So on the session 10th May, we will be starting with Essay 200 series, right? In those Essay 200 series, we have Essay 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250, 260, 265, and 299. So 9 standards are there. So we will be covering in 2 sessions. One is on 10th May and another one is on 15th May. So before coming to those sessions, because I already mentioned that engagement and quality control standard topic is very, very important. It alone can give you 30 to 48 marks weightage. So please don't be afraid of these topics. You go through the lecture, you read the engagement and quality control standard, and then with the help of question, you will be able to understand the standards very, very deeply, and you will be able to identify and you will be able to answer and get good marks, right? And these standards are very, very important. So we will be practicing question bank. So for question bank, you need to be prepared, right? So please go through the lectures carefully, come with the preparation, have notepad and pen so that you can know how to make notes, how to answer, and we will be giving you assignment also, right, Harshit? We'll be giving them questions, so they need to be prepared so that they can answer that and practice more and more so that we can make the result of auditing subject best, right? So we need your support. You have to be with us. We are with you for hand holding. So be with us, be prepared for the engagement and quality control standard. And for, in fact, any of the session, if you come after studying or going through the topic, then you will be able to understand in more depth and more detail. And of course, Harshad is covering many more questions. He help you to understand the question. He help you to understand the topic practically also. He shared a peer review report format also. So in depth, he is trying to cover more and more, but we need your help. You be prepared. You please come with the study. After studying, you will be able to ask good questions and we will be happy to answer your all the queries. So be prepared. In case if you have any doubt or any query, you can write to us, right? So for Monday session, that is on 8th May, peer review will be continuing and quality review will be covering. So in that also we will be covering more and more questions. So you please go through the topics recorded lecture so that you can answer questions in effective manner, and will be help you to guide where you are lacking marks. What are the observation of examiners? So where you are lacking, why you are losing marks, so that you can get very good marks because its weightage is more. And in MCQ and integrated case scenario also, we'll be able to help you how to integrate all the standards, because it's not like only one standard based question will be there, because at final level, you all are aware that we have 3 skill set: knowledge and comprehension, application and analysis, and evaluation and synthesis. In knowledge and comprehension, simply a question can be on any of the standard. But for application and analysis, you need to apply maybe one or more than one standard and analyze the situation and give the conclusion. In evaluation and synthesis, there will be more provision. Means there might be more than one situation or maybe application of more than one standard. So for that, we need to prepare each and every standard carefully. Then only we will be able to perform good in audit report part also. So be ready with your notes. And for engagement and quality control standard, you can also go through Charansh booklet, wherein we have provided flowchart format of the standard, like what is the name of the standard, what is the scope, objective, auditor's role, how to deal with the specific situation, important some definition you can go through, and how auditor will report and how auditor will deal with that specific situation. So you can also make your own notes, and of course practice we will be doing in the session, and then you can also revise the same. So your main problem where maximum students are in problem for engagement and quality control standard, that will be definitely resolved, right? So be prepared, and we'll be meeting you in another session also. So over to you, Harshad.
Thank you.
If you want to add on.
Definitely, ma'am. As you said, it's correct. Please be ready with the tested. Let's say, for example, if it is standards, watch the lecture, be ready on that particular point. So that when I will be covering the questions and I will be discussing the MCQ for integrated case scenarios, it will be helpful for you guys to understand that how we are applying, how we are answering. It's very important that you complete the lecture that are pre-recorded, which are there already on the POS portal, and you read it appropriately. Reading and seeing the lecture both are required, and then it will really help you, in answering the questions. Yes, ma'am.
So with this, thank you very much for your patience listening, and thank you to our learned faculty, Shri Harshad Tekwani. I thank Harshad. And hopefully you will also be cooperating with us, and you'll be coming after preparing, so that we can get maximum benefit of these classes, right? And these are very, very important topics, not only for the syllabus purpose, for statutory compliance also. It is very, very important. So wish you all the very best, and have a great learning experience. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you in the next lecture. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.